However, there would be many Seventh-day Adventists scurrying here and there on the streets preparing for the Sabbath. I preferred not to meet anyone. Since the streetcar line ends in front of a shopping area, I wondered if anyone would tell me that he had needed me in the office that morning. In weariness and apprehension, I prayed, Lord, let me get home alone. Don't let me be obliged to talk with anyone when I get back. Please help me. I must have dozed a bit. All at once I realized that we were being switched onto a siding. Soon the conductor explained that there had been a wreck ahead and it would be some time before the wreck was cleared. When finally I arrived at the Union Station in downtown Washington and then made my way to Tacoma Park by streetcar, it was already dark. So the Lord answered his simple prayer of not wanting to have to encounter anybody. The streets were deserted. I walked the few blocks to my home on Carroll Avenue without meeting a person I knew. Soon I was in bed, after praying that the Lord would grant me a good night's rest and would prevent my awakening on the Sabbath with my mind in a turmoil over the past day's activities. The Lord granted my request, for I slept soundly. In fact, Sabbath was well along before I awakened to find the sun shining across my bed. It was March 4, 1933, and it was the day a new United States president was to be inaugurated, Franklin D. Roosevelt. For a moment I lay there. How good it was to relax. Then, through my open window came the raucous voice of a newsboy. Extra, extra, banks closed. Extra, extra, banks closed nationwide. I sprang from my bed. In my pajamas, I rushed to the door for a newspaper. I had to know what had happened, and there it was, in 2-inch-high black headline proclaiming, "Banks closed nationwide." I began to realize what this meant. Tears came to my eyes, making it difficult for me to read. I was humbled to realize that the Lord had used me to save most of our mission funds. I spent the rest of the Sabbath alone with God, praising the Lord. I prayed that He would always keep me humble in His service. Immediately after sundown, my telephone rang sharply. It was Elder J.L. Shaw, our General Conference treasurer. He was calling a meeting of the Treasury personnel immediately in his office. "You have heard the news," he said. "What will we do to support our missionaries?" Then he hung up before I could answer. I noticed that, as the treasurers entered Elder Shaw's office, everyone was tense and all were talking in subdued tones. All were especially concerned for our overseas workers. With the banks closed, there will be no funds to support the missionaries in the field. Neither will there be money with which to bring them home, Elder Shaw explained to us. At that point, I requested permission to speak. I quietly related to them my story. We had a prayer session that evening instead of a business meeting. Instead of agonized prayers for help, there were prayers of praise and gratitude for God's wonderful guidance. Nor did we forget to beseech Him to keep us humble in the future. Oh, that He might always lead us as He had in this instance, we prayed. As we rose from our knees, someone remarked that we had been so concerned for our overseas missionaries that we had given no thought to the need of our workers at headquarters. How would we provide for them? How long would the banks be closed? Then I remembered the $1,000 items in the little safe in my office. There would be enough cash with which to meet our payroll for the next 3 months, the same length of time for which we had sent the funds the day before to the overseas divisions. When Elder Williams sat down that morning on which he shared this experience, it was evident that the congregation had been deeply moved. Thousands of small banks, indeed, were permanently out of business on March 4, 1933. Many large banks did not open again until after a panic-filled period had passed, a period of 3 months. During that time, it was not possible to send funds out of the United States. During that time, the Seventh-day Adventist mission did not recall one missionary. Neither did the General Conference find it necessary to borrow funds in order to carry on its work. And the payroll for the General Conference was met on schedule. During the time the banks were closed, from the dated and marked envelopes in the little safe in Elder Williams' office.
Praise the Lord.
So what do you think of such a story?
That we should always be quick to listen to God. We should know His voice and quick to be obedient to respond to God.
Right, quick to listen to his voice and hear it. And why Elder Williams? Why not? He was apparently the assistant or sub-sec treasurer. Why not? Why do you think the Lord didn't use the head treasurer? He used the under treasurer instead to do this. But why did he use Elder Williams and not Elder Shaw?
He was humble enough to listen.
He was humble enough to listen and obey. Yes.
The scriptures tells us as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons and daughters of God. Now, it doesn't mean that Elder Shaw was not a child of God, but the Lord knew that he may have been hesitant
Yes.
and unwilling to do what the
Elder Williams
Elder
did.
Williams did. So God had to move upon the heart of someone that he knew him, understood the urgency of the movings of the Spirit, and would act on it. And so said, so done.
In other words, somebody that was brave enough to go through with the instructions.
Yes.
How many times are we and others not brave enough to go through with the instructions? We've seen that even in the beginnings, the very beginnings of the Adventist movement, in that of how many people were called before Ellen White was given the gift of prophecy? 2 other people. And what was their problem? They were not brave enough. They were not brave enough to follow through with what they were told. Yes, Elder Williams, as you can see, as his own word said, he was shaking up until the time he reached the door of the bank. But the Lord gave him composure while he carried out what he had to do in the bank. And when he went back out the bank, it's like his trembling started all over again. But he had to go to another one. And he was able to accomplish that. And the Lord gave him strength until after that was all finished, that and the cable, he realized he was exhausted, even though he hadn't gone to bed the whole night before. Some people may not have wanted to have to stay up all night to do what they had to do.
Yeah, I was just saying, we're probably going to have some of those experiences again.
Yes.
But we have to be, as Pastor Herbert, humble, as you said, humble and willing to listen and to carry out, even though it's difficult.
Yes. And also that it tells us that we need to spend a lot of time with the Lord so we can know when He's the one talking to
Right.
us.
Yes.
Yes, we need.
Yes, absolutely.
Try the Spirit, guide the Spirit. Yes. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful in that which is much. A lot of times we want to do a big thing for God, but we don't want to do a small thing.
That's true. That's very true. And so by being faithful in the little duties, He's willing to do a lot bigger things for us. And as I said, I believe we'll be able to look forward to a lot more of these kind of things, but we have to put ourselves in a position that the Lord can use us to do these things. Which means probably getting used to doing things that are not very easy. Because if you're not used to doing things that are not easy, it's going to be hard to do something that's not easy when it really becomes an issue.
We've become convenient Christians.
Yep, convenient Christians.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that he who thinks that he is too big for small tasks is probably too small for big tasks.
Very good.
I knew you
Right.
needed to speak up.
Yes. So hopefully this is an encouragement to us that the Lord will work mightily for his humble, true people. Those that really are seeking the advancement of his work. Not for selfish reasons, not for ambition, and being in a situation that our ambitions don't get rubbed the wrong way. Because Elder Shaw could have gotten upset about how come Elder Williams was commissioned to do that and not me. I'm the general conference treasurer. Why would the under treasurer be given this task? He should have gone to me. But we don't see that in this account, which is wonderful. Because unfortunately, it seems like a lot of times today, people's ambitions are on their fingertips. If I'm not used in that capacity, then I'm out of here, then something, then whatever.
No patience.
No patience. It's more about, I must be recognized. As opposed to, okay, whoever the Lord wants to use, as long as the job gets done, that's the important thing.
And I'm there to support.
Yeah.
And that's what God is watching in. He's watching to see his word fulfilled in your life, and my life. But if we withdraw from it,
Yeah. And not again let our selfish ambitions create issues.
Also, what came out in how everything worked out, it tells me that God knows the depths of each of his children's hearts. And he doesn't prefer one over the other. He just knows the different temperament, different personality, you know where you are in your heart. So that's why he chose to use one for a particular person, subdue the other one, and he just work everything out for
Right.
his good.
And maybe it could have been as simple as the fact that Elder Williams, his wife was gone, and so he really didn't need to be going home that night anyhow. And the other elder maybe had wife and kids that would have missed him, but nobody missed Elder Williams because his wife was gone already.
But you see, God still he still worked out everything.
Everything, yes.
And with the dates that the money was due for those certain situations, it wasn't pressing. So he could have just put it off his mind. But delayed obedience is disobedience. Because he was obedient, not knowing what was going to happen the next day, it all worked out for the good.
Yeah, and like Sister Ellery said, we have to individually know the promptings of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
How are we motivated to do things? I know for me, one of the main things to know is if there is something that I normally am not too inclined to want to do. It's not necessarily the greatest thing that I need to do, but it's something. But if there's a day that I'm somehow more motivated to do that thing, I'd better jump on it that day and do it, because that may be the right timing.
Yes.
And, you know, today we may or may not see the implication of timing, but in this situation with Elder Williams and the bank closing, timing was a big issue. It was a big issue. And so as we go forward in the years, we may have some more stories along such a line as the Lord looks out for his work.
Modern day stories.
Yes, modern day stories. Ones that are not 92 years old. Yes, so I wanted to at least share that so we'd have at least a little bit for the AY program. I do want to go on and mention what I had mentioned this morning as far as something about health for the next few moments. And actually, I needed to get my pad. So this morning I talked about the fact that God is interested in our health. I think probably all of us are well aware of that. Hopefully we are. And He has given us instruction on what to eat. And that is, He designed for us to eat plant foods. And I wanted to talk about eating plant foods. Can I have you hand this out, please? Thank you. I want to talk about our food choices. Because even though hopefully most all of us have chosen to eat plant foods, or just a total vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, whichever phraseology you might want to, there are also choices that we can make as far as the kinds of foods that we put on our plate. And this here is an illustration of the kinds of foods and their proportions on our plate. In the top half, we see on the upper left-hand corner, plant-based protein, 25%. So about 25% of our plate should be plant-based protein. Things like tofu and beans and the other higher protein foods, plant foods. On the right-hand side is grains, whole grains, of course, brown rice, whole wheat, millet, quinoa, and a bunch of other things. 25%. And then on the bottom half is 50% vegetables. That's a lot of real estate on that plate. That's a lot of real estate. Why? Well, you know, it's easy, even as vegan vegetarians, that we love our spaghettis, we love our rice, we love those kind of things. And it's easy for that item to kind of morph and to spill over into being 3/4 of the plate instead of 25% of the plate. And what that does, though, is it pushes out, generally, it pushes out more of the vegetables. And what I want to focus on for the next few minutes is why are vegetables so important? There are significant benefits to vegetables that we don't so well realize or don't realize at all from the other plant foods. Not to say that we get rid of the higher protein foods, plant foods, or the whole grains. They still need to be there, but everything needs to be kind of in a certain proportion. And as far as this plate is concerned, I would further divide up that 50% into about 25% raw vegetables and about 25% cooked vegetables. Or if you want a 50% raw, that's fine, but at least have a representation of raw vegetables every day. Whether it's leafy greens or some other vegetables, there needs to be a representation of raw vegetables every day. So I want to highlight some different vegetables as to what are their benefits. Now, in overall, one of the big benefits of plant foods, and this is going to go for not just vegetables, but our whole grains and our plant-based protein, is fiber. Fiber is really key, and probably all of us know about fiber, but even in more recent research and some of the natural healing circles, it seems like fiber has become another big item in the sense that it's getting more focus. It seemed like it had a good bit of focus about 30 years ago, and then it wasn't in the spotlight so much. It kind of fell out of the spotlight, and now it's coming back into the spotlight. How important fiber is. Do we all know what fiber is? Do we get any fiber from meat?
No.
Any from chicken? No. Any from cheese? No. Any from milk? No. Any from eggs? No. Because by definition, fiber is the indigestible or partially indigestible cell walls of plants. Plant cell walls. So if that's where it is, it's found in the cell wall and the cells of plants, then we're not going to find anywhere else. So it's part of the makeup of plants. Partially indigestible or partially indigestible plant cells is what it is. So we might think that fiber is fiber. Okay, it doesn't matter if I get it from whole grains, or I get it from beans, I get it from my lettuce. It doesn't matter. I just get it. I could even take a fiber supplement, and that would be perfectly fine. But no, that's not what they're finding. They're finding that all the different plant foods have little different variations in fiber. So the fiber you find in blueberries is not the same as fiber in whole wheat, which is not the same as the fiber in the lettuce. And what's even more interesting is that those variations of fiber feed different strains of friendly bacteria in your gut. When you get a probiotic from a store, they'll often say, well, this is 3 strains of probiotics, which is basically friendly bacteria. 3 or maybe 4 strains of friendly bacteria. Well, it's not just 3 or 4 you have in your gut. You have hundreds, maybe even thousands of different strains. And each of these different kinds of fiber feed preferentially different strains of the friendly bacteria. So by eating a wide variety of plant foods, you keep everybody in your gut happy. And those friendly guys in your bacteria are really important. It's been found that they're really important for your immune system. It's really important for your heart. It's really important for your mind even. So keeping those friendly guys in your gut happy is really key. And one of the best ways of keeping them happy is a high fiber diet. And the only way you can have a high fiber diet is to eat a whole food, plant-based diet without any animal products. And key here is whole food. That doesn't mean white rice, white flour, other refined foods where the fiber has been removed from it. Even like the difference between eating an apple versus drinking apple juice. The apple is going to have the fiber, the apple juice is not going to have the fiber. So preferentially, it's better for you to eat the apple than it is to drink the apple juice. So that is part of the importance of eating a plant-based diet, is the fiber that it comes along with it. As one person has said, you're only as healthy as your gut. If your gut's not healthy, you're not going to be so healthy.
How true is the saying, an apple a day keeps you healthy?
It's certainly a long way toward that, especially for people who don't eat much fruits and vegetables. They say, like, I can't remember the percentage, but the vast majority of Americans don't eat even the recommended fruits and vegetables a day, even if you count French fries and ketchup as part of it. Yeah. So for somebody on a standard American diet, apple is a good place to start. But hopefully it doesn't end there. Hopefully we can get them onto the vegetables. So I want to look at about 3 or 4 different types of vegetables based on more so on color and what they do for us. And again, this is going to be more so the vegetables versus things like from the grains category, the rices and the pastas and the whole wheat. And again, not to say that they don't have their own place to fill, they do, but we don't want them to crowd out our vegetables, because our vegetables have a very important part to play in our health. Orange vegetables. So orange vegetables, I'm sure you can imagine quite a few of them. Carrots, pumpkins, sweet potatoes and yams, sweet corn, yellow and orange peppers, and most of the squashes, etc. One of the important benefits of this color of vegetables is the vitamin A or vitamin A precursors that they contain. So vitamin A is a vitamin, and what it especially does is help to prevent cancer and keep our skin healthy. We like both of those things. As I said this morning, cancer is not something that you want. You really, 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 really do not want to get cancer. And again, I'll say one of the best ways to avoid cancer is to not eat any animal products. Not meat, fish, fowl, not dairy, not cheese, not eggs. And I know as far as many Adventists, they love their dairy products, love the cheese. And usually that's one of the hardest things for people to get rid of is the cheese. And there's some physiological reasons to that. Yes?
I just wanted to ask a question. What could I eat to get the vitamin A?
The orange vegetables.
Orange vegetables?
Yes, the carrots, the pumpkins, the sweet potatoes and yams, all the yellow and orange stuff. Many of the squashes will get that.
Thank you.
Yes, and so yes, as far as dairy products, why? A couple reasons I'll mention as far as even no dairy products, because they're from cows. Cows are kept pregnant to give you milk. And the process of them being pregnant and kept pregnant, they produce estrogens. And this can go into their milk. And as they are more pregnant, they produce more estrogen. And when you ingest estrogens, milk is considered one of the highest dietary sources of estrogen. And estrogen is a hormone that tells your cells to hurry up and divide fast. And what do we typically call that when it's uncontrolled? We call that a tumor. We call that a tumor, and if it's going to spread, we call it a cancer. So that's one of the big reasons why dairy is not a recommended food source. Also, of course, it has no fiber. So that's another big reason. Yes?
Butter is included also.
Sorry?
Butter.
Butter. That's from milk. Butter's from milk. So dairy will disrupt your hormones for both men and women. Yeah. Another thing I'll mention as far as hormones are concerned, the more fat you put on, the more estrogen you yourself make. And the more estrogen you yourself makes, that contributes to the estrogen load, which contributes to the promotion of cancer. So that's one of the reasons why keeping a healthy body weight is really important if you do not want to get breast cancer or prostate cancer. Really important. In fact, to stay on the lower half of BMI. Have you all heard of BMI, at least at some point? Yes. Okay, it's a very crude way of determining whether or not you're in a healthy body weight. And why I say crude is because there's a better mechanism, but you do have to have a device to measure body composition. With BMI, all you need to do is go on an internet website that gives you BMI, put in your height and weight, and it'll give you a BMI. So it makes it accessible to pretty much everybody. But staying on the lower half of that range, like between 18.5 and 25, even though it might say it's okay to go to 30, but staying in that lower range will be more beneficial for preventing cancer. Now, if you go below 18.5, then there are issues of being underweight, and that's not healthy either. So we don't want to be underweight. So again, a balance. Dairy products tend to put on weight because they're also high in fat usually. They have no fiber, which means you eat a lot of it before you start feeling full, and it just compounds to why plant foods are better. But that's a diversion from our vegetables today. So orange vegetables, carrots, pumpkins, sweet potatoes and yams, sweet corn, yellow and orange peppers, and most of the squashes help prevent cancer and keep our skin healthy. And one particular study done not long ago showed that those with a higher intake of vitamin A and its related precursors reduced the incidence of squamous cell carcinoma. Squamous cell carcinoma is one of the forms of skin cancer. You have basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and then melanoma. So in that order of seriousness also. So it's good for our skin. Vitamin A also helps with low light vision. So what does that mean to us? That as we get younger, get older, and we start saying, it's getting hard for me to see when I drive at night. Well, if you aren't eating your yellow vegetables, maybe that's something that needs to be on part of that real estate on that bottom half of the plate. Vitamin A is also possibly a part of or contributes to nearsightedness in younger aged people as well. So making sure the young people are getting their vitamin A is good too. It also helps to lower the risk of heart disease in men, which is...
What about the vitamin A that you can buy in the store?
That will help too. But of course, because it's always best to get as much as you can from food and view the supplements as just that. They're adding to what you're doing already, not an excuse not to do that.
Again, fiber is going to be included in the food, but not
Right, for sure. Fiber is going to be helpful as well. And when you get the plant, you get the whole complement of everything else that is along with.
Is quantity important?
Is what?
Quantity.
Quantity. Supplementation, I think they're talking about 25,000 international units. Is that every few days? If I'd have to look as far as the quantity as the RDA. Sorry?
Potato.
I don't have that information in front of me at the moment. Yeah. The next one I want to look at is green vegetables. Green vegetables. So we're looking at things like spinach, lettuces, artichoke, arugula, which is a form of lettuce, watercress, celery, peas, etc. And it also has vitamin A, but that's not what I want to focus in on for the greens. I want to focus in on a couple other things, one being vitamin C. So vitamin C is, if we get that, a good source of that is the greens, which we do not get, interestingly, in grains. Maybe you never had heard that before, but we really don't get vitamin C in grains. We get it in vegetables and also fruit, but we don't get it in grains. And why is that important? Well, vitamin C is really important for your immune system. It helps your immune soldiers, those white blood cells that go out and attack and provide your defense as an army. It keeps them energetic and existent and there and strong. So vitamin C is really important for your immune system. What does that mean to us today? Means you're less likely to get COVID. We don't need to get COVID. We don't want to get COVID. But if you have a strong immune system, either you won't get it, or if you do get it, it will be just like a little cold. Yeah, okay, I wasn't feeling good yesterday, but I did my green drink. I took 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and I drank plenty of water, and I took my teas, and I went to bed. I did my hot foot bath, and I'm good.
I've mentioned vitamin C to people and the quantity, like it used to come like 2,000, and I say, you know, you can take it throughout the day. You can take it. It's the quantity is, you know, you said 10,000. I don't think I've ever taken 10,000, but I've taken at least 8.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they're afraid of taking so much. They have one. I'll take one a day. It's got 1,000. I'll take one. You know, maybe 2, but they're very afraid of the quantity.
Which is unfortunate, because it's only us and guinea pigs and I think chimpanzees that don't make vitamin C in our bodies. Everybody else has an enzyme that they produce their own vitamin C. And in comparable creatures, they're making, if you extrapolate their size to us, they're making anywhere between 4,000 and 20,000 milligrams a day in their bodies. And if we're under stress, it makes it even more, makes more. When we are sick or under stress, your body just like sucks up the vitamin C. It's like especially if you're sick, you need extra vitamin C. And there is a way of doing it that prevents reaching bowel tolerance, because that's probably what they're scared of. They're scared of, oh, give me diarrhea. Well, yeah, if you take 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C at one time, you might get diarrhea, yeah. But there's a way of doing it that you don't get diarrhea, and that is if you take it in groups about 4 hours apart, like 3,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 milligrams at one time, and then 4 hours later another 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams, and another 4 hours later you take 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams, because it takes about 4 hours for that vitamin C to be processed and utilized in your body, and it's out. So you end up producing a constant flow of vitamin C, but not in quantities that you're going to reach bowel tolerance. And yes, you can take 10 and 12,000 milligrams of vitamin C. We have done that when we're sick, and with no problems.
And then again, you have to also remember you're involved in a war. This is a battle.
Right.
And you can't be bringing just a few handguns to the enemy.
That's right.
You have to bring everything you've got,
Yeah.
so that he will realize you are serious about him getting out of your face.
That's right. That's right.
You mentioned in the beginning eggs, cheese, milk shouldn't be eaten for people who want to be healthy.
Correct, yeah. We want to avoid that. And in the context of being sick, dairy products, especially milk, often produce mucus. Yes. And if you're dealing with COVID, that's not what you want. Because what is one of the big problems with COVID is the congestion in the lungs. And if you're eating stuff that's contributing to that mucus buildup, that's not a good thing.
The reason I brought that back up, Sister White says that cheese shouldn't be used for human consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Cheese clogs the arteries, it causes high blood pressure, it really shouldn't be eaten.
Right.
It's bad. Eggs is the same thing. The eggs, the white in the eggs and the yolk, they clog the arteries.
Yeah.
So that causes high blood pressure and it causes a stroke when you eat those products.
Right. Yep. And you're very, very right on all of that. And again, they don't have fiber, which is one of our focuses of today. So vitamin C helps us to avoid COVID-19. It helps us to avoid flus in general. It helps us to avoid cancer because everybody has cancer cells in your body every day. We all have cancer cells, potential cancer cells. A healthy immune system recognizes the abnormal cells and gets rid of them. That means you need to have a healthy immune system. The ones that are out there doing the scouting, being able to recognize what is abnormal and be able to take care of them, take care of the abnormal cells. If you don't have a healthy immune system, it gives an opportunity for the abnormal cells to set up shop and grow, and then you end up with a problem. So vitamin C is really important for cancer prevention. Vitamin C is also important for connective tissue. Your skin has a lot of connective tissue. And so when that starts to get a little tired, as we get a little older, what do we get? Wrinkles. Vitamin C helps to keep that connective tissue strong. So it helps to prevent wrinkles. We all like that. Yes.
What builds your immune system?
What's that?
What builds the immune system?
What builds the immune system? Things like vitamin C, nourishing the body, keeping our friendly bacteria happy with the fiber that we're eating. Yes. And all the things that we know about health, even sleeping, exercising, all those things that are important. We just happen to be focusing on green vegetables and vitamin C at the moment. Yes.
Oatmeal. Now, how good is oatmeal? Does it work more for the system as being a grain or having something that is high in fiber? Exactly how good is oatmeal?
Oatmeal's good, and it's a grain, and it's high in fiber. And because of its makeup, it can also be relaxing because it helps the body to produce tryptophan, which produces serotonin, which makes you feel relaxed and not anxious and things like that. Yep. Vitamin C helps in the healing of cuts and wounds. That's a good thing. Keeps our gums and teeth healthy. What does that mean? We can avoid false teeth. I don't think any one of us want false teeth. So keeping our gums and our teeth healthy is important, and vitamin C plays into that. False teeth is never as good as your real teeth. Have you ever talked to anybody that said, I am so happy with these false teeth, I'm glad I got rid of my original ones? I don't think we have ever heard anybody say, it's usually like these things, I got to go back and get them adjusted, they hurt, and I took them out because I can't chew, or they're always having problems with their false teeth. Vitamin C will help with that. Vitamin C helps with brain health, and we're talking about across the spectrum between Alzheimer's as well as younger individuals who have things like depression and other mental issues. Studies have shown that everyone who is institutionalized for mental problems has at least a vitamin C insufficiency. Everybody, no matter what age. Now, I didn't say deficiency, but I said insufficiency. So it may not be that they're going to be able to say, yeah, they're low on vitamin C, but the vitamin C level could be better. Vitamin C helps to prevent atherosclerosis and therefore heart disease. There's one particular doctor that believes atherosclerosis is to a very great extent a vitamin C deficiency.
That's the clogging of the artery.
Right, that's where that plaque, that hard stuff gets laid down on the inside of the arteries, and it ends up making the arteries stiff so they can't expand, and then you have high blood pressure because the arteries can't expand to accept the blood, and then on top of that a blood clot comes along and gets lodged, and then you have a heart attack or stroke or whatever.
Is that reversible?
Mm-hmm.
Because my brother is in the hospital right now, and they're preparing for operation.
Yeah, Dr. Ornish did a fantastic set of information. In fact, if I recall right, he has gotten it to the point that Medicare will pay for a Dr. Ornish program.
How you spell that?
Just kind of like how it sounds. Yeah, I think the last time I knew, at least that they may even pay for a Dr. Ornish program because it's so successful.
Yes.
What's the number one cause of mental illness?
The number one cause of mental illness. It's a very good question. Probably if we knew the answer, that would make somebody rich, but generally probably some kind of nutrient deficiency, or maybe an amino acid deficiency, or maybe some other kind of trauma.
Sugar.
But interestingly, in many other instances, these are triggered by wrong thoughts.
That too.
Because what I've seen in dealing with counseling, especially young people, is that many times doubt leads to depression. They end up getting into a mental spin of hopelessness. Something they wanted, something they believed in, something they longed on, and they long for, and they see it going away from them. So it develops a sense of hopelessness based on doubt. They doubt that this situation will change, and therefore they end up locking themselves in their rooms, don't want even to practice proper. I'm dealing with young people's situations, and I'm hearing it over and over again. And one way in which you break through that, you have to help them to start to believe that problem that they believe is impossible can be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's right.
Mental illness is just like the same thing like diabetes, heart problem, anything that troubles the human race. A lot of time it's genetic, but choosing a plant-based diet, the right way of doing a plant-based diet, you stick to it and you do the health laws, like the health law, try your best to live up to it. You can turn off that gene by your food choices.
Yeah, because there's a connection between the fact that you end up entertaining negativity and you're not eating properly. Because now you end up going into junk food because you don't care anymore. You actually don't want to live. And that takes away all the nutrients that Diane is now telling us we need. They're not getting the nutrients. So it's a whole war now where your body's fighting against you because your mind is fighting. You are feeding your mind to kill yourself.
And the Bible says, as a man thinks, so is he.
So you
That's
need
true.
both. You need to have the mind therapy and you need to have the diet therapy.
Thank you. Let's go to the next component of green vegetables that I want to talk about, and that's magnesium. I think we've all heard of magnesium, right? That's the central part of the chlorophyll molecule. The chlorophyll molecule is the one that makes greens green. And that in the magnesium is what helps to make the chlorophyll green. So grains have some magnesium, but not as much as greens. Why? Well, grains are not green. Greens are green. So we see that the proportion of magnesium in greens is much higher in the green vegetables than it is in grains. And so magnesium has about 300 to 400 different functions in the body. And so that's a lot. It's important for things like proper heartbeat. So if a person has irregular heartbeat, magnesium can help. It's good for bones, which is helpful for osteoporosis and arthritis. It's good for proper blood sugar levels, which is good for diabetes, people that are fighting with keeping their blood sugar right. Now, of course, there's some other things that those diabetics need to do also, other than just eat their salad. They need to exercise. They need to come off of their high-fat diet, which means no animal foods, get lots of fiber, etc. Magnesium helps to prevent muscle cramps, all kinds of muscle cramps, and that is whether you're exercising or otherwise, that's really important. It helps with PMS, it helps with constipation, especially magnesium citrate. That's one of the ways that you can relieve constipation and still nourish your body, and that is taking magnesium citrate at high enough levels that it makes you not be constipated. Magnesium also helps with restless sleep. It helps us with irritability. It helps us to relax, including relaxing our arteries with high blood pressure. So magnesium is a real important thing. Unfortunately, in this country, calcium has gotten the higher recognition than magnesium, but it really probably should be flipped, that magnesium should have higher recognition as far as importance than calcium. Yes, both of them are important, but magnesium, I think, is an underrated mineral. So much so that really we need to emphasize the, as far as the intake, as high as even the calcium. Now, greens are so important that I've often said that if you don't know what to do with a health problem, take green drink. Do you have a health problem and you don't know why or what to do for it? Take green drink. What is green drink? Basically, greens blended up. And there's a really easy way of doing it in about 3 minutes. If you have one of these cute little NutriBullets that have become popular over the last couple decades, you get one of these bins of organic spring pre-washed greens. Yes, they cost a little bit more, but hey, going to the doctor is going to cost even more. And you get a box of them, take handfuls of that and stuff that into your NutriBullet top. Get some pineapple juice and put about that much in the bottom of it, blend it up and drink it. You have green drink in about 3 minutes. And if you don't know anything else to do for a health problem, drink a couple of cups of that a day. That certainly will be a help, just because greens, the chlorophyll is going to do so much for you.
And of course, by blending it up, you are getting a lot of greens in
Yes.
just a bottle.
Yeah. It's easy to drink a cup of green drink, because with the pineapple, you might think, blended greens, that doesn't taste good. Oh yeah, it tastes pretty good. With the pineapple, it tastes nice.
And it absorbs quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put the actual pineapple with that?
I've had some people say that it doesn't work as well for them.
Oh.
So if you want to try it, that's fine, but so you could choose whichever one. Another category of vegetables are the red vegetables. What are the red vegetables? Tomatoes, beets, radishes, red cabbage, red bell pepper, etc., the red stuff. One of the nutrients in these red vegetables is lycopene, which is found particularly in tomatoes. Tomatoes with lycopene. And this is particularly cooked tomatoes. Cooking them increases the bioavailability. And why is that important? Should that be important? Well, especially for men, because it helps to prevent enlarged prostate and helps with overall prostate issues. So tomatoes is a good thing, especially cooked tomatoes is a good thing for men. When we've been in South Africa, every breakfast we had roasted tomatoes. It's like tomatoes cut in half and they just stuff it in the oven and roast it. So maybe the South Africans knew something that we in North America don't know. That's what you had for breakfast, along with some beans and some other things that we could eat. But roasted tomatoes was always a part of the staple of a South African breakfast. And I think protecting the prostate I think most men would agree on that. Another red vegetable are the beets. And it's particularly in beets is a substance found called nitrates. And when you chew these nitrates and you digest them, the body converts it into nitric acid. And this nitric acid helps to lower your blood pressure. So that's a good thing. So if a person has high blood pressure, eating beets is a good thing. It actually helps to relax and widen the arteries. It relaxes it so that it can expand to take that pump of the blood, because when your heart contracts, there's like a ball of blood that gets ejected into your arteries, and it needs to expand to accept that extra quantity of blood with that heartbeat. If it doesn't, then that's part of the problem with high blood pressure. High blood pressure is really an artery problem, is what it is. And so with beets, it helps to relax and widen the blood vessels, and so therefore it brings down blood pressure. It also helps to improve blood flow to the brain, which is very good.
Skin of the beet,
You can cook the beet. You can cook the beet.
skin and all.
Mm-hmm. I'm not. I haven't known that you have to juice it. Just eat it. Eat it. Cook it. Yeah. But you can shave it. You can shave it raw and eat it. But because it's a firm vegetable, you're probably going to want to grate it, so it's easy to eat. Now, if you have teeth that are not very good for crunchy things, then you'll for sure want to cook it. Or juice it, but probably because this is in the context of eating vegetables on your plate, that would probably be the preferred way. But juicing could be an option. So it improves blood flow to the brain also, and I need to mention also that these nitrates in the beets is different than nitrates in the meat. You may have heard that nitrates in meat is harmful, and that is true, but the nitrates in beets are not harmful. It will actually convert to this nitric oxide, which helps to relax the blood vessels and bring down blood pressure. So those are some of the red vegetables and some of their benefits, why we need to also include them. The last category I want to include is the cruciferous vegetables, or at least I should say the last category I'm going to talk about today, cruciferous vegetables. We probably have all heard a little bit about cruciferous vegetables. It includes a wide variety of vegetables, including bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, Swiss chard, collard and mustard greens, kale, radish, turnip, and more. So it's a pretty broad category of vegetables. And one of their specialties is bringing down inflammation. Inflammation is kind of a situation where your body, especially your immune system, is on overdrive. It sees something is wrong with something's going wrong with your body, and it kind of keeps your immune system on overdrive. And sometimes that in itself becomes damaging. And so all of the chronic health problems, inflammation is a factor. If you have a chronic health problem, probably you've got some inflammation going on somewhere. And these cruciferous vegetables will help keep that inflammation tamed. That virtually all chronic health problems, inflammation is a part or a factor in that person having that chronic health problem. Whether it's a cause or a manifestation, keeping the inflammation tamed, in other words, cooled, so it's not going out of control, yes, is important for chronic health problems. Another thing that is also found in many of these cruciferous vegetables is something called sulforaphane. Sulforaphane. It is a particular substance that is a potent inflammation reducer, and it is a potent cancer inhibitor. So whenever you hear about cruciferous vegetables being healthy, there is good reason for them to be labeled as healthy. They bring down inflammation. They also help to inhibit cancer. Another interesting food source of sulforaphane is mushrooms. Even the lowly little white button mushrooms that you get in the store. That's a good source of sulforaphane. And they are also high in vitamin C and fiber as well. So, and the sulforaphane is particularly made available when we chew these cruciferous vegetables. So drinking and juicing them can be good, but chewing them, it's in the process of chewing that this particular chemical or substance is made. I'll read a comment to you that was made by a particular medical website. Sulforaphane is a chemical that is made when chewing cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, cauliflower, and broccoli sprouts. A chemical in these vegetables called glucoraphanin mixes with an enzyme in humans called myrosinase, which I'm not expecting you to remember any of those words, which produces sulforaphane. But it just shows that chewing our food is important. Sometimes if we have gotten into the habit of eating too fast, we don't properly chew our food, but chewing our food is important because as far as the cruciferous vegetables, it helps to make this substance come into being, the sulforaphane, to help dampen inflammation and to prevent cancer. And I think I need to turn the rest of the time over to Pastor Herbert.
No, I think you could use the time to
I can take some questions and then I'll still turn over to you.
I could close up with prayer.
Go ahead, Lara.
What I come to understand, along with everything that you just said, if we cut back on refined sugar, and for our sweetener we use agave or honey instead, that would help a whole lot with a lot of the ailments and
Yes.
even inflammation and mental illness, everything.
Yes, because keeping your blood sugary, and this is part of the problem with diabetics, why they have like problems with their feet, is that keeping your blood sugary irritates the inside lining of your arteries, and which can, combined with a low vitamin C intake, can really produce the atherosclerosis. So yeah, you're very right. Keeping our sweetness requirement low, in other words, getting used to being happy to have our desserts not very sweet. Most of the time in most recipes, you can cut out a good third to a half of the sugar, and it is still plenty sweet.
What about other sources of sugar?
You know, like dates.
Agave.
Right? Dates are good.
No, I mean to cut out. Where do I cut it from?
Like,
Just asking.
right, so if you have a recipe that says for a blueberry pie, because I think I've seen this, it wants a cup of sugar. Well, just put in half instead. And what I've done is, with even that half, use half as dried sugar cane crystals and half as a stevia.
I was talking about sources of sugar
Mm-hmm.
that we get out of the store in a box, a can, or bag.
Dried sugar cane crystals is an option, but again, getting used to having our desserts not so sweet is
Still limiting the amount despite the fact that you're changing the kind.
Yes.
right. Yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it is known in the natural healing world that Adventists love two things: sweets and dairy.
Yeah.
And non-Adventist natural healers have noticed that.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why we need to get used to just having things not too sweet.
What about raisins?
Raisins are good. Yeah.
Right, I think Sister Marshall wanted different
Options.
Okay, so yeah, raisins, dates, honey. Again, I will just say that all of these, we need to be moderate in all things. There's date sugar, there's coconut sugar, there's monk sugar.
All of those, if you overeat or put too much in it, it's harmful.
Yeah, that's why we have to learn to not have our desserts so sweet. Just
Yeah, I was talking about sugar's in everything.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They manufacture sugar in everything.
That's
What about that?
That's why it's better if we have to stick with simpler things like our rices. Yes, make our own food. Rices and our beans. I don't know why they put sugar in red beans. I have no idea.
It's addictive.
Keep them coming in bags.
Yes.
You know, yeah, as much as we can. I have found you have to make your own desserts.
You can use natural sweets like sweet potatoes, anything that's natural.
Sweet potatoes is an option. But desserts, you're going to have to make your own, pretty much.
One last thing I must say. I have experimented, and with the regular refined sugar, is just tried for at least 3 weeks of limiting the intake of sugar or avoid it. When you try to go back to it, your taste bud
And you feel it in your head, too.
reject it, yes. And your mind, your thinking process will be more sharper.
You can use sugar cane. Sugar cane is another option.
And even that, all of those sweeteners, we still keep it. We learn to have less sweet. Yes.
I stopped buying sugar. First, I stopped bringing it home. I might have had it in the streets, but then I finally quit. But I want to make it clear. You said, and I thought you was about to repeat what I wanted to say. I was going to say what I was going to say. The sugar's in everything. God put sugar in everything, except water. So we already got the right amount of sugar in everything. I reversed diabetes. My A1C was 10. Not no more. The doctor not gonna get me off of it because that'll take money out of his pocket. I bought a bag of sugar in 2017 because I knew I would have a house full of company for about 5 days. They never touched it. They got their sugar somewhere else because it was brown sugar, right? I threw it away about a month ago. From 2017, never been open. Discipline. God knows exactly what we need before we ask. Matthew chapter 6. He put sugar in everything but H2O. Trust him. And you will be good. I think I said enough.
I'll also bounce off of that, in that the regulating factor for sugar, and this is even the natural sugar, is the fiber that the plants have. That the fiber, because fiber is there, it makes the blood sugar gradually go up nice and gradually, doesn't spike it, makes it go up nice and gradually after we eat a meal, and then as the digestion completes, it goes down the other side. We get hungry so we can eat again. But when we eat foods that don't have fiber in it, it does this. And that's one of the reasons why we want foods with fiber. Most of the desserts in the grocery store are made of, white flour, which has most of the fiber removed, plus a lot of sugar. And so, yes, your blood sugar is going to do this. The sweet drinks, even much of the fruit juices, because of no fiber, what's it going to do to the blood sugar? Because fiber is the moderating factor. And that's why we want as much as possible that everything we put in our mouth, other than water, has fiber in it. That's how important fiber is. We should be getting close to 40 grams of fiber a day. Most Americans barely get half, if they're lucky. So, on a voyage of everything that I eat needs to have fiber in it. Yes?
I have one more question. You had spoken earlier concerning circulation, overall circulation through the arteries, and the result of just having some sort of deficiency, or not a deficiency with the heart, but the heart, pumping the blood, and the arteries not being able to take that strain. Would that, if that's, the question that I have is slow circulation to the brain, does that have any type of influence as far as seizures? Someone having a seizure, seizures result in the brain? Slow circulation to the brain? That's my
Yes, circulation is, having good circulation is always a good thing. Epilepsy, seizures, may or may not, it could be more so, it's generally characterized more so as faulty brain waves, but still, your brain is going to be working off of the nutrients that you give it. The fact that circulation is what brings the nutrients to the location, even though typically they're not talking about that. But the fact that the circulation is bringing vitamin C and these other nutrients to the brain. So yes, circulation at least will be an indirect factor. Will it be a cause? I don't know if I can say it's a cause, but it will certainly be a factor in it. If we're talking about seizures, there's some other things that can be helpful for seizures, such as black and blue cohosh tinctures. It has to be tinctures, not tea, but tinctures. Also lobelia. Not too high doses, though. Mm-hmm.
The cohosh is good for, what did you say was good for the cohosh?
The black and blue cohosh for epilepsy, for seizures. But it has to be tinctures. It cannot be tea. Will not work with tea. Has to be tinctures because you see water and alcohol extract different things. Yeah. But circulation is always good. If there's anything that can increase circulation, that's always a positive thing. Whether it's recognized or not, it's always a good thing. And that's why exercise is so good. It's bringing in that blood into that area.
Sunshine plays a part in rehabilitation.
Yep.
Fresh air, getting out, doing exercise.
Outside. Very good. I'm 200% with you.
Me too.
Yeah. That's unfortunately, most people don't exercise enough. And when we're busy in life, we get it. It's sometimes hard to carve out the time. But if you want to grow old energetically, that's what you need. That's how you're going to grow old and not be laying in bed somewhere.
A good form of exercise is gardening. You talk about all these vegetables, we need to start growing a lot.
Mm-hmm. Gardening, walking. Mm-hmm. Basically, it comes down to anything, something anybody's going to do. If they don't like it or they're not going to do it, doesn't matter how good it could be. If they're not going to do it, if they don't like it, it's not going to happen.
I've got some turnip greens growing right now.
I'll be over your house.
I live right behind the church.
That's Herbert?
Okay, I guess we're ready to move the group.
Just tie it in here somehow. Thank you. I think it's about 20 minutes.
Okay. We want to say thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
I just want to add something to that closing thought about exercise, and that is many times people think that because they work hard and they're busy and they're hustling to and fro that they're exercising, but don't fool yourself. You are not truly exercising if your mind is not at rest. Because many times we have to be going up and down the stairs because of our job situation, running our errands, etc. But remember, most of the time that is done under stress. Because you have to get somewhere or to get to someone at a certain point in time, and you're trying to keep your the appearances of doing your job, but it's stress, and stress undermines the effects of the exercising that you're doing. And that's why you have to, and that's why even in the case of gardening, It is something that you are concentrating on. You're not being supervised by somebody. You are thinking about nature, and that way your mind is at peace. So it's an entirely different form of exercise, but once the mind is at peace and the body is in motion, everything is affected to the point where you benefit from it. So when you are telling yourself you're going to go and exercise, make sure that you are concentrating on enjoying your surroundings. Listening to the birds, watching the trees and the leaves and the flowers and all that God has created, so that your mind will be at rest while your body is in motion. Then that mind sends the body a message of, oh wow, isn't this great? So everybody benefits. But you don't want to depend on work activity for exercise. You just don't want to.
Why is swimming?
Pardon me?
Why is swimming one of the best forms of?
Well, you know, the fact that a person you have to somewhat relax in order to be buoyant. So yes, you're making the motions, but you notice you have to be making somewhat nice, slow strokes to be able to really get some strides. But you know, Ellen White undermines that concept. She tells us walking is the best form of exercise. I could never forget when I read that some years ago. It blew my mind because I came up in a society that talked about swimming, cycling, and running. And we thought that just because a person looked relaxed while they do those things, that it meant that they were really getting the best of the best. But inspiration outdoes them all. Because when you go walking, and I mean under the right circumstances, your mind is at rest because basically you are seeing things to be able to stimulate the mind in the process of enjoying what God has done. And therefore, the body is in motion, so you have circulation. So you're starting to break down whatever clogging has been taking place by eating wrong food. So we really need to make time to walk. You don't have to run because sometimes that could also be hard on the knees. That's why a lot of guys playing. I mean, they're shooting all day, and the next thing you know, a few years later on, what's going on with the knees? All right, and then you're coming down hard. You're going up high, but you're coming down hard. So you can't beat inspiration. If inspiration tells you walking is it, walking is it. Just take it take God at His word. Go ahead, my sister.
I walk all day in my job.
Yes.
Is that not good?
No, it's good. You have circulation going, which means that you are still being able to get at least the movement of the blood. But where's your mind?
That's what I was supposed to say. The
Yeah.
mind knows the difference.
The mind.
That you're working.
Yeah.
You're not exercising.
Yeah. And you know, usually if you are on a work environment, you know automatically that you are not free. You're working for for your bread and butter. Even if it was that you were not working for somebody else but yourself, you're still working for your bread and butter. That in itself is a stress because it puts a demand on you to do this for a reason. When you are exercising to be relaxed, to enjoy yourself. For my wife and I, for us, we have to find somewhere where we could go and walk at least once a week. Even when we travel. If we travel and we go on missionary work, we have to take at least one day, find some park or somewhere where we could go and walk in the mountains or somewhere else, because we know to be able to do the Lord's work, we have to clean our system, get that fresh oxygen, and get the blood rolling, or else our minds are not going to work. So we have to, our health message is really for us to survive. And we have a major work to do coming up, and therefore we need to be preparing for it every single day we have to be preparing for it. So we have to carve out somewhere in our work week to ensure that we are getting exercise. Have to do it.
You mentioned brisk walk.
Brisk walk, yeah.
What form does lemon juice aid in digestion? You said we should take lemon juice every day.
Again, we're dealing with the vitamin C, because if it is that our immune systems has to be strengthened, we have to be able to give it what it needs. As Diane had indicated, we don't produce it naturally, and therefore we have to supplement it. I mean, for those who came from the islands, you're using a lot of oranges and tangerines and that kind of a stuff. But unfortunately, I mean, we need to go back to where the brother is, where we could get stuff from the soil, because some of it comes polluted because they're being transported, picked young, and not even allowed to really mature on their own. So you end up getting maybe half of what you should be getting in nutrients out of them. But I mean, it's better than nothing. But then we could substitute it or reinforce it by applying the other natural laws of health, exercise being the one that we leave out the most. And many times you have people, because they may be heavy, they think that, well, no, I can't do that. You have to go at your pace. You have to do it, but you go at your pace. Don't try to do what everybody else is doing. You do what you can do. Remember, our life is supposed to be one where we are trying to please God. And if the Lord asks us to apply the 8 natural laws of health, Ellen White said how the natural laws of health are as important as the moral laws. As the moral laws. We as Adventists make a lot of to-do, and we talk about the moral laws and this and that, but we don't want to talk about the natural laws of health. But she says, go ahead. They are connected.
If you break one, you break another.
Yes, and we apply that only to the 10. But it's also in relation to the natural laws. We tried to do some long distance walking. And I remember, and this may sound bad, but I remember once telling my wife, wow, the Lord tricked us. Because we went for a long walk, and then the next thing you knew, we ended up going so far that it started to get dark, and we realized we got to get back. By the time we were finished, it was 17 miles we walked.
That's too far.
That was the time I said, I think the Lord tricked us. No, but what we gained from it was this, that we could go further than we were. Mm-hmm. So what we do is, every year we plan certain long distance walks, and you have to work yourself up to it. Normally we'll go maybe about 3 miles, but then we will have certain days where we will turn around and say, okay, we're going to go a 10-mile walk, or 6 miles and then 10 miles. But you have to work your way up, and that's why I'm saying there was a time I could not do it. And I tell everybody, you've got to go at the pace you could go. As far as you could go, you go. You tell yourself you're gonna go just 1 mile or even a half a mile. And you do that, and you do it over and over again, but consistency is the jewel. Ellen White said, consistency, thou art a jewel. It is a jewel. You do it repetitively, as much as you could. You tell yourself, well, you're going for a short walk every week if you can. You have Saturday, you have Sunday. Well, you can't do it on Saturday, do it on Sunday then. Find some time where you allocate specifically to apply that law of health, and you make the time to do it. By the time you do it for you go out for maybe an hour and a half, you've accomplished what your body needed. You don't have to go long distances when you're now trying to start off building up that kind of momentum for your body to get accustomed to. But you go at your pace. If you can't go fast, you go slow. We usually tell people if you could only walk from the front door to your mailbox, do it. Mm-hmm. Do it every day. That's all you need. Just do that. But it's better than you just sitting down on your sofa every day of the week. You get up and you walk to the mailbox and you come back, and then maybe you walk around the house, look at other things that you have in the yard, and then you could go inside. You were not doing that before. So you've actually broken a spell. Now you walk from your mailbox to the end of your street. And then you come back and you sit down. And you wait until maybe another week. And you go and you do that again. And then you elongate it. But the point of the matter is we've got to keep in motion if we want to live. And I mean, as Diane was indicating, if you want to live a fulfilling life, not that you in your later years you are suffering and you're dragging, you have to keep in motion. People who retire, the biggest mistake they make is when they decide that they're not doing anything. I've worked enough for my lifetime. No, you got to keep working if you want to live. You got to keep in motion. The whole idea behind motion is living, is life. That's your life. So even if you're not working for somebody, you work to keep yourself alive by moving. Make sure you are moving. If you're not moving, you're going to die, and unfortunately, you're going to die suffering.
The body in motion
stays in motion. Your heart will be moving right, and the brain will be moving right. Diane's father lived till what, 92, and his brain was as sharp as a whistle. My assistant pastor, he lived to be 95, 99.
Actually, that was 93, I think.
93, and yeah,
Pastor Harding was
99. And he he preached right up until he died. He preached right up. He was from what country it was? It was Liberia. And he preached right up until he died. Why? Because he kept in motion. He used to tell us that when he was a young guy back home in Africa, he used to run everywhere he had to go. He was a person in motion. So we have to learn to accept the 8 natural laws of health. They are real. They are real, but you only benefit from them if you use them. Yes. And you have to be consistent in your usage of them. And you take your time. You don't try to keep up with everybody. You do it at your own pace. And you'll surprise yourself. After a year or so, you're going to find yourself being able to do more than you thought you could have ever done. Change your whole life.
What are those natural doctors?
What we describe as New Start. The nutrition, the exercise, the water, the sunlight, the temperance, the air, fresh air, rest, and then of course trusting in God. And you notice why trusting in God is important from our conversation earlier on, because if the mind is not in faith, it is in doubt. Doubt is the opposite of faith. And once you get into that doubting, you're going to get into the tailspin of depression. So we've got to free ourselves from all of that. And Christians have it all, because we have somebody who we could trust in that really could make a difference in our lives. So, brethren, I'm going to wrap up by just saying this. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ that strengtheneth me. We have to believe in that, and all the things that right now we think or we say we cannot do, let's believe that with his help we can. And let's bring him into the fabric of our daily lives. Recognizing, as the sermon this morning indicated, that Jonah, Elijah, Judas, all of these brothers who ran from God at some point in time, they doubted him. And it was the biggest failures they experienced in their lives. We have to break through doubt and start really trusting in God. And we don't wait until we feel a difference to believe that God is with us or on our side, or that he will help us or deliver us. We have to believe in order to receive. You have to believe first. You have to believe that he's going to do good things for us because he loves us. You don't just trust in God's power, you trust in God's love. And when you combine the two, his love and his power, you have it all. You have all the reason to believe that you're going to get what you are seeking from him, especially if it is something that you know he wants you to have.
Yes. Can you explain why when you have a great victory, the opposite of that is a great victory?
The unfortunate thing with we human beings is that it is easy for us to get proud. Because it's natural. It's part of us. The carnal nature is self. The carnal nature tells us that we can survive on our own. We don't need anybody, and we certainly don't need God. That's what the carnal nature tells us. So we get a great high based upon a victory that God is responsible for. He gave us that, and then we lose sight of him, and all we see is me. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Depression, you kill all these false prophets.
Yes.
But the next day, this woman said, I'm going to take your life.
Yep. He was gone. There was no God in his sight at that point in time. And that's why we have to educate ourselves to see God all the time. That's what Enoch did. Ellen White said what was meant by him walking with God, or the simple phrase we use, abiding in Christ, is continual communion and trust. We must be praying and trusting continually. So that trust is based upon our belief in his love for us. Go ahead, Sister Ellery.
You said Jonah had doubt?
Yes, Jonah had doubt because, he had doubt because Jonah did not believe the Ninevites would have changed.
Oh.
God sent him to go and preach to them, and he did not believe that it would have been worth anything, so he went the opposite direction.
Yeah, I thought that until when he and God had the conversation, and God said, why are you upset? Do you have the right to be upset?
Or Job, you're thinking of.
Jonah.
Yeah, or Jonah. Okay, yeah.
And Jonah said, I knew you are merciful, and I knew you would have saved them. So I started thinking that he wasn't doubtful. He had malice against
Yeah,
them.
but there was,
He felt like they deserved
there was a pride here. Jonah, he did not want to go preaching and telling them that how this judgment was gonna come, and then the judgment did not come.
Oh, okay.
So he had to try and he thought he needed to counteract it by avoiding it. It's pride again. Comes back to self.
Before the Lord, he knew he was merciful.
Yeah, he knew he was merciful, but he also knew that mercy could result in his message seemingly to be a false prophet.
Oh.
So self.
He knew that God was merciful, but he was not obedient.
Yeah.
He was not obedient.
I
Obedience
think
goes
he
under
didn't
the...
also, from that conversation, I was thinking he didn't want them, he had malice against them and wanted them to get
Well,
what
yeah,
they
he was precious
deserved.
against them. Yes.
Yeah.
If I put myself in Jonah's shoes, I would say, that's a good thing, God, for anybody but me. I doubt if I would do that.
Oh, but this is where we have to gain from their bad experiences and tell ourselves, look, if God asks me to do something, it's best I do it because he has a good reason. Look at how he would have come out of this without us even talking about the bad thing he did. He would have come out of it with flying colors. All we would have been talking about is Jonah. Wow, he had quite an experience of being able to transform a whole city back to God. A whole city repenting because of his delivering the message. But he failed by not going through with God's will. You see, that's almost like wanting to be picky and tell God, well, I'll only do this or that or the other. You can't do that if you're going to be a servant of God. You have to be totally surrendered to his will and always believe that his will is always perfect.
Yes.
So, there's some, I'll just close with this. Ellen White made a statement, she said, every failure on the part of the children of God is due to their lack of faith. I'm going to repeat it again, and I want you to go home with it and think about it. Because each of us individually have to be able to come to the understanding of that in order to really see the value of faith. Every failure on the part of the children of God is due to their lack of faith. Now, underscore the word every. And go think about it. And you'll see how important it is for us to learn to trust God and live a life of perfect success in all things. We would be just like Jesus, being able to see success in every single thing in our lives if we learn to trust God all the time. Because he was our example. So if he was successful in everything he did, so can we.
Yes.
So that's the undermining thing. Every failure on the part of the church, I think is Patriarchs and Prophets 6:57, if I'm not mistaken. I'll give it to you. I'll double check it and give it to you after we pray. But I think it's PP 6:57. Every failure on the part of the children of God is due to their lack of faith.
Does that include things you pray for?
Yes, because there are things we need to pray for and do not say according to your will. And there are things that we need to pray for where we have to say according to your will. When you pray and you ask the Lord for strength to overcome, you never say, if it is your will. When you pray and you ask the Lord for wisdom, you don't say, if it is your will. When you pray and you ask the Lord for his Holy Spirit, you never say, if it is your will. Anything that you know the Lord really wants us to have because we need it in order to be saved, you never say, if it is your will. Because then you are doubting that God really loves you. But if you want to ask him for some expensive car or some mansion, you better say if it is your will, because that might be the end of your soul. So you have to be able to, you have to know the God you serve. You have to know the God you serve and please him by communicating with him accordingly. All right? Anyway, brethren, we had a wonderful time. Thank you for inviting us. It was, wouldn't you say, a joy, Diane? Yes, it was a joy. I enjoyed myself. Sister Marsha, may God continue to be with you. May he continue to strengthen you and guide you and help you as you endeavor to provide a platform of present truth where the saints of God in this part of the country could grow and be strengthened in preparation for the final conflict. I will be praying to that end. Let's go ahead, brethren, and could we sing a hymn before we close? There shall be showers of blessing. You had one, Sister Ellerine.
Yeah, that one is good. It was so sweet to trust in Jesus.
Okay, well, we could change. We could sing showers of blessing another time.
We can do both.
I'll let you take over.
Okay.
Thank you.
Huh?
Whichever one you want first.
Sabbath songs. Okay, everybody, there should be showers of blessings. And I surrender all. I surrender. Oh, tis so sweet. Showers of blessing. What number is it? Sarah ought to know what that number is. Showers of blessing. 195.
And 524.
195. Stand up, everybody. We're sitting a while. There shall be showers of blessing. This is a promise of love. There shall be seasons refreshing, sent from the Savior above. Showers of blessing we need. Mercy drives round us a falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, precious reviving again. Over the hills and the valleys, sound of abundance of rain. Showers of blessing we need. Mercy drives round us a falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, send them upon us, O Lord. Grant to us now a refreshing, come in now honor thy word. Showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead.